you're live. All right. Well, no one's here, but I know people watch the rebroadcast and they see me sitting here, so I can't just not say anything. But hi, I'm Uncle Birch. It's early. I don't even think it's noon yet. Probably the earliest one of these that I've done. I've been playing with different times, different days, to just randomly do this go live thing, this Ask Uncle Birch thing, and I've been having a good time with it. So I am Uncle Birch, and I can't not teach witchcraft. That's one of the main things that I spend my time doing. You know, creating stuff for witchcraft, you know, mailing stuff off. I'm constantly brewing, constantly handling orders, but teaching. And so I've been increasingly doing this this Ask Uncle Birch thing. So you're helping me get ready. I've got massive teaching to do. I've got my year in a day witchcraft course starting February 1st, half a month away. I've got my witchcraft without Wicca. I'm still putting classes together for that, and I'm still providing content for my spiritual warfare classes. These are all things coming up on Gumroad. If you don't already know, you can sign up for any of these things or download these classes at gumroad.com/witchschool, which is of course WITCHSKEWL. And I'm also working on these live interactive classes. I haven't really settled on a format for that yet, but y'all helping me get ready. I got massive teaching to do coming up, so I'm teaching more and more every day and doing this Ask Uncle Birch random video thing. So we got a couple people in there right now. See if that changes, but so I've been doing this thing. The lighting's definitely, hello Steve, good morning to you too. Lighting's definitely better today now that it's all cloudy. A lot of times I've been doing this thing later in the day and the light's just been horrid up here, just sunlight right in my face. My people don't do sun, no, well, not a whole lot of it at least, but so I've been doing this thing for a while, and I think this is number 6. I think I need a new chimaruta for my hat. Hold on. Chimaruta. A sprig of rue. A piece of jewelry called a sprig of rue. That's much better. All right, now I think I'm ready to do this thing here. So, those of you that haven't done it before, hello, love, Mifro, hi. Well, thanks for all joining me. I've been doing this random thing, Ask Uncle Birch. People ask me questions about witchcraft and magic, and with no preparation, I tend to have too much to say on all questions, most questions about witchcraft and magic, so almost anything. I'll answer almost anything. Give it a shot. We only got a few people in there now, so now's a good time to get questions in. It gets a little harder when we get more people in there. Try not to ask questions while I'm answering somebody's question. That always gets me lost. So I try not to read them. And I only tend to see the questions on the screen for a few seconds, so try not to be too long-winded, but you know, ask Uncle Birch something, and Let's see what I have to say. They're thinking and or they're typing. Let's see. What's it mean when someone keeps a chicken bone in their hat? Oh, that's a good one. Bones are often for protection. I've known some people to save bones from sacrificed roosters, put them in their pot, put them in their hat. God, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to have one for that. What does it mean when somebody keeps a chicken bone in their hat? Probably some sort of magic. Bones are often for protection, to call forth the energy of the creature. I've seen more of that. Bones of fowl. I've seen more of that done with roosters than I've seen that done with chickens. And rooster's very powerful, territorial animal, very protective. Hello, Colaris. People are saying hello. People just getting in here. This is the earliest I've done an Ask Uncle Birch. I try and do them at random times because I have people all over the world watching. One of these times I'll do it in the middle of the night. But usually, I have father shit to do and client work to do, witch stuff to do at night. But that also includes teaching, so I'll probably do that sometime. But it's one of the earliest times I've done this kind of thing. So who knows what people will be seeing. I see different people every time I do this. So we do this thing. It's called Ask Uncle Birch. You ask a question, I'll try to answer it. That's about the best that I can come up with a chicken bone in the hat thing. I put some herbs and plants in my hat sometimes, but never put a chicken bone in there. But yeah, you're probably a rooster. Probably a rooster. So what you got? What you got? What you got? We got a few people in there waiting to ask a question. Not a whole lot of people yet, so good time to get your question in there. It gets more difficult and confusing as we go. Hope the sound quality is good. I've done this Ask Uncle Birch, and then and it works fine live, and then the video later is all fucked up. That's the one time that I used the microphone, the plug-in microphone, and I'm not sure if that was the problem with my audio on that one. I have some of my older videos. The audio doesn't work on smartphones, and it took us years to figure you need to plug in headphones for some reason. Stone Witch, do you ever incorporate cannabis into your craft? Well, yes. I'm a pot smoker. It's legal here, and it's so fun to go to the pot store. Happiest place on earth. The happiest workers I know are the people who work at the pot store, and they're stoned out of their mind most of the time. But yeah, I've often said, even way before it was legal, regarding the 3 keys of magic, relaxation, concentration, and projection. Hardest one is projection. Projection means that once you do the spell, you try your best to forget the spell, let it totally go. All conscious connection to the spell released. Hard thing to accomplish because it was something important enough for you to do a spell. Most people can't pull that off. I have oft recommended, after a spell, do something totally unrelated to witchcraft. Watch TV. That mind-sucking thing that the TV does is great. Try not to watch commercial television so they don't program you to buy shit. But that's an excellent thing. But definitely, I've often recommended post-ritual bong hit or 3 or 4. As probably the worst side effect of marijuana is short-term memory loss. That's exactly what we need. That's exactly what we need for the 3rd key. So yeah, absolutely. I might be stoned before the ritual too. I don't know. I got really good long memory, but yeah, definitely short-term memory. has been affected over the years. I offset that memory loss with rosemary, and it tends to work pretty well. But yeah, I definitely will use marijuana that way to just part from the spell, send my mind elsewhere to something unimportant, and definitely the bong hit and the TV together. Go watch a movie, something like that. Just take your mind out of the equation. Do something with your hands. Let it go. Forget about it. That's the third key of magic. So there's your answer for that. We're doing Ask Uncle Birch. If you have any questions, type them on up. Try not to ask me a question while I'm answering a question, because it fucks with me. So definitely less people this time of day than the other times of day that I've done it. Maybe people are at work. Cannabis smoke for divination. Yeah, well, it's smoke, so I've seen all forms of smoke used for divination. Definitely incense smoke. Let's see. Uncle B, what's your favorite rock group? Rock group. Now I'm thinking witchcraft. I'm thinking, I don't know, amethyst quartz. There's so many great quartz. But no, rock group. The Damned. Absolutely. I am not really a rock group. One of the earliest punk bands, actually, the earliest official punk band. There were, the Stooges and the Preludes to punk, that kind of thing. But the Damned actually predate the Sex Pistols. The band actually gets together a couple months before the Sex Pistols. Matter of fact, Sid Vicious was invited to audition for the Damned and didn't show up. This guy, Dave Vanian, who looks like a vampire, showed up. He got the job. The Damned put out their first single in 1974. I think the Pistols, 1977? Somewhere around there. So the Damned, New Rose, first punk single, first punk band. Dark and spooky, pre-goth kind of goth, a little bit of glam rock maybe too. Great band for spooky little kids studying witchcraft. So we're perfectly. The Damned. More albums than most bands, and wider variety of types of music. The stuff that punk band has pulled off, just like epic ballads and operas, and incorporating classical music, and the Damned would be my favorite, as far as punk bands. I play a lot of Bad Religion on my show Widdershins, because Bad Religion has such brilliant lyrics that speak to our troubled times. Hello, Moon and Spice from Alaska. Gotta be butt cold up there. It's like 65 degrees here, man. So do you make your oils by order? Have them pre-made for service? Well, I'm glad you asked, because I've put this out there a number of times, and apparently I still haven't stated it clearly enough on my website. I closed my brick and mortar shop 3-4 years ago. I finally did the math and realized that the majority of my living was coming from the internet, from my web page, from my teaching, even from YouTube. Now the podcasts, I don't need to be in a place to make a living. I can live wherever I want now. That's why I moved to Hollywood, because I could. I didn't have to stay in Santa Cruz anymore. Now, when I worked in Santa Cruz and had the brick and mortar shop, there was a crew. And I taught enough of my brewing techniques to the trusted people in my crew to run the shop. Now, since I stopped doing that, it's all me. So if you order something from the Sacred Grove, and it's a brew, a candle, an oil, an incense, a spray, a bath, anything that's brewed is not backstock. I do not keep backstock. Now, if you're buying like ritual tools, books, that kind of thing, I'll either have them in backstock or I drop ship them to you from the distributor of those things. But when you order from the Sacred Grove and you're ordering a brew, that brew is brewed by these hands, and I'm one man, and I'm very busy. So do not order from me if you're in a hurry, because I adhere to magical timing. So I brew my orders in the order that the orders were received, adhering to magical timing. That often will be a month, sometimes more, depending on when your order came in, a month to brew the thing. Now, I think that works better. If I was going to buy magical products from somebody else, and I probably wouldn't because I kick ass and they don't, I would want that. I would want something now, and furthermore, I brew it in your name. So hopefully you use your legal name when you make an order. But I brew it in your name for you, with my hands, my experience, and adhering to magical timing. As such, that can take some time. Now, if you ever make an order from me and you've worked out a date for your magical working, you have a working plan, you drop me a note with your order, and one thing I can do when I see it, sometimes I'll have orders I haven't been able to look at them yet, but when I see the note, I can at least move you up in the queue, into the front of the queue if necessary. If you need it in a week or something, I can't help you. I'm not gonna rush the brewing process that much. So plan ahead, and if you're in a hurry, don't order from me. It's quality. It's quality. There's no backstock. I don't have stuff sitting around. I think oils and brews lose their effectiveness the longer they sit on a shelf. When I'm, your oil's being charged with the planet involved, or the moon, or the stars, whatever you have. There's a charge in there, and I would hope that you're charging your own stuff too. But when it comes from me, it's coming ready to go and charged and gonna work well for you. So that takes time, and I would hope that you would rather have it made by me than some schmuck in some sweatshop somewhere. Hello, Emerald City Music. Good to see you too. Anyway, so yeah, it takes a while, and I get backlog. I can get a lot of orders. Samhain's really busy. Christmas solstice time's really busy. Really, when a pagan holiday comes up, I always get a busy, like a spike. But since I closed the brick and mortar, I don't keep a whole lot of back stock on hand. I brew as needed. I brew for you, and it takes a while. And I think that works better. I think they work better in that way, and that's the way I would want my stuff, rather than just getting it pre-made off a shelf somewhere. So thank you for asking, whoever the hell asked. I forgot who you were. I saw another question, but you didn't hear me. Try not to ask a question while I'm answering a question. Maybe type it up and wait to hit send or something. I only get a couple seconds to see that. Emerald City Mystic, my products are the best. Thank you. Can I talk about Buddha? No. Not a whole lot. I will say that the majority of the pagan and back into Wicca, the majority of the meditation techniques that we tend to use were borrowed from Buddhists and other Eastern philosophies, and that's something. Crowley did that. Gardner picked up on Crowley's work. Yeah, without those Buddhists, we wouldn't have a whole lot of ways to meditate. So I'll give him that. Somebody asked about hermetics. I saw that before the other woman. Oh shit! It's all about hermetics. It's all going to go back to hermetics. I was on a podcast for a number of years until the podcast ended, called Candelo's Corner, with my friend Candelo Cambisa. And that particular podcast was more in the ATR community and the African community. So it was more hoodoo and palo, even some ocha, some ifa, some santeria, kind of leaning more towards those kind of things. And on the last show, and I knew it was going to be the last show, and it was an emotional time because I loved that show. I had quite a bit to drink, slurring maybe a little bit towards the end of the show, but I said some things off the cuff that really required more explanation than what I was able to say on the show, because what I said on the show was so controversial, it caused so much controversy, there just wasn't enough time to follow up on it. So what I said there is, every type of magic I know of follows the same magical laws. And some people were thinking, oh, what, the threefold law, the Wiccan reeds? Like, of course I'm not talking about that shit. I'm talking about the Hermetic laws. The Hermetic laws of magic, Kabbalion. And then what magicians did with those laws, they elaborated on them, and now, if we go out and we search the laws of magic, M-A-G-I-C-K, is the best way to search for those, we find elaborations on those magical laws, and I actually cover those. Those are important things in the beginning of my classes. We learn about those laws, the very important laws. Now, my statement was taken by these people to mean that the hoodoo people borrowed from Hermetics, and that's not what I was saying. Hermes wrote down magical laws that he observed to exist. Did not create the laws, but they happen to be the same laws. Now, Hermes could have been Greek, Hermes could have been Egyptian, so that would make it African, but everything, magic, science, medicine, all of these things come from Hermes. They come from Hermetics. Why I still refer to magic as a science. Magic is a science. These three fields were related. They were born of the same source, or at least recorded by the same source. And some of these things, some of the medicine and the science that Hermes came up with, nobody else had come up with these things. But things like the law of sympathetic magic, the idea that like attracts like, that we have the likeness of a thing and we do the magic on that likeness of the thing to affect what that thing represents. So like we got a doll. The doll represents a person. We do something to the doll to affect the person. That's sympathetic magic. The majority of magics that we'll see have elements of sympathetic magic in them, where we're doing a thing to an object that represents another thing. Like attracts like. Absolutely in the ATRs, absolutely in voodoo. It's probably one of the clearest places that we see that, with at least what we think of with voodoo, with the voodoo doll. Hermetics. These things all come from Hermetics. Just about maybe an hour that way, the land where I grew up, Long Beach, California, one of the oldest witch stores in the country, the Eye of the Cat, is still there. The witch store I grew up in. The witch store I went to witch school in. The witch store I learned how to brew in. The witch store I grew up in the back of and fell into what I would end up doing for the rest of my life at 13 years old. My life path apparently was figured out at 13 years old. I tried doing other things, but always witchcraft was right in the middle of it. And then, growing up in a shop and then becoming a shop owner, it was just, not even falling far from the tree. But so the Eye of the Cat, to this day, says one thing in the window: Hermetic supplies. Doesn't say Wicca, doesn't say witchcraft, doesn't say any of the common language used to attract customers. It says this obscure thing that most people don't know what it is: Hermetic supplies. and people still figure it out. They're still in business. They're still doing fine. But all of it's going to go back to hermetics. We're going to find all of these, you know, the one that you all know, as above, so below. That's so huge in the craft, and it will take you your whole life to figure out all of the things that that means and all of the places that that applies. And I still have not figured those all out. But as above, so below. We see it on bumper stickers nowadays. That's hermetics. That's I think the opening paragraphs of the Kabbalion, you know, the Emerald Tablet, exactly. CD 393. Hermetics, and you can read the Emerald Tablet. You can read the Kabbalion. It's all available on the internet in PDF. Nobody owns the copyrights to it, and it is the foundation of probably every magic that we will see. Hermes didn't invent it. He recorded what his research had found, or he was a god, depending on who you're talking to, and a god that recorded these things that he found. All right, great question. Whoever the hell asked that? We're doing Ask Uncle Birch. Got a lot more people in there. So if you have a question, you know, type it up and try not to ask me a question while somebody's asking me a question. And as we'll find, most times, I have too much to say about all of these things. Let's try and keep it magic related. For those who are not able to practice openly with supplies, candles, what are your thoughts on ritual in the astral only? A huge portion of old ceremonial magic, and as such old witchcraft, because old witchcraft borrowed so much from ceremonial magic, was the development of an astral temple. A place that you build in the astral plane where you project to do magic that is more powerful than on this plane. And that's probably the best I can really do for you in this format. You're going to have to learn on your own about the astral temple and how to build it. However, it's not something that I would skip ahead to. Ask me that again in a minute, CD 393, because that's huge. God, now I'm lost. Astral temple. Within the astral temple, we would tend to find ourselves in an astral body with astral versions of our ritual tools, performing roughly the same actions that would perform down here with the ritual tools. Ultimately, within witchcraft and magic, the tools are ultimately something we want to not need eventually. But the idea is that we've had the tool in our hands so many times, we can evoke everything about that tool in our magical self. The feel of that tool, the energy of that tool, the weight of that tool. And that requires us to have had that tool in our hand, our physical hand, a great many times to properly invoke those energies in other formats, to do the empty-handed gesture magic without the tool, and likewise to be doing the tools without the tools on the astral plane. So I recommend sneaking. Be very sneaky. My parent tradition, a very weird Book of Shadows. And the Book of Shadows is written in a format to have been written during the times of persecution. And the majority of the Book of Shadows of my parent tradition was ways to sneak around and hide. Like an excerpt, no markings should be made on the ritual tools. When markings are needed, they can be written with chalk or with the ashes, or with the black part of a burnt piece of wood. can be written upon the tool and then erased. And a lot of techniques, it was believed you were rubbing these symbols into the tool rather than having the symbols carved on the tool or painted on the tool. Because these things make a tool look very witchy or look like a magician's tool, that kind of thing. And these kind of things would get you burned at the stake. Let the blade be the same shape and configuration of the kitchen knives and kept with the kitchen knives. This is in the Book of Shadows, so this would be not the athame proper. It'd be like a butcher knife, kept with the butcher knives. The cord was let the cord be commonly seen around the house and used for an obscure purpose, to fool the infidels. This is the language. There's a couple other ones. This is, I believe, where the athame comes from. If your office does not require a sword, do not have one. And this, originally, the magical tool that we would find in ceremonial magic, that we borrow from ceremonial magic, was originally the sword. These are the ritual tools that we'll see in the magician card, on the magician card in the tarot. But there is a belief that during the times of persecution, if you were not military or law enforcement, you had a sword that was seen as a ritual item and could have got you killed. I see a bunch of people asking questions. Let me say it again for those of you that just joined me. Please try not to ask me a question while I'm answering a question. Get your question ready and get ready to press send. I only see the question for a couple seconds, and if I'm answering a question, I can get kind of thrown off. CDC93 had a question before y'all, so I'm going to answer that one. Can you ask it again? Something about Thoth? CDC93? And yeah, maybe you'll get it in there, maybe you won't. Let's see. All right, a couple seconds for CD393 was something about Thoth. We were talking about Hermes. Maybe he was talking about the Thoth. Hermes, Thoth and Hermes are interrelated in a lot of mythos. Thoth as an Atlantean. You know, the Atlantean shit gets really cheesed up, unfortunately. It is prehistory. It did exist. It was a very mystical place with better scientific advances than most of the places on the planet at the time, and we know it existed. There's historic records that it existed. Nobody talks about Lemuria. Lemuria is also a similar mythical landmass from ancient times that also sunk. Probably closer to the British Isles. I don't know where exactly Lemuria was, but same kind of thing. So there's a lot to Atlantis that unfortunately you don't want to talk about Atlantis because you sound like a new ager. But no, it existed. I've seen the belief that Thoth was Atlantean. Absolutely could have been. Absolutely could have been. Thoth comes from some. It's kind of tough, like, for us to wrap our heads around it, because a lot of people in the old stories are equated to gods, or attributed such vast powers that they're gods. The best telling of the Celtic mythos is from the Book of Kells. And the Book of Kells was written by some Irish monks trying to tell these folk tales, but they couldn't conceive of these beings being gods, so they told these as humans with magical powers. You know, like Lu. Lu is just a warrior with a spear that happens to go out over the battlefield, kill everybody, and come back to his hand, amongst other things. And we find that, we definitely find that wrapped up, definitely with Atlantis, Egyptian stuff, Hermes and Thoth equated with each other. Thoth is an Atlantean. It makes as much sense as anything else, and we probably we'll never know. I don't know. Maybe we'll finally know in some day and age. But yeah, it makes much sense as anything else. Okay, so that was CD393. Did somebody else have a question out there? Opinions and thoughts on the left and right hand path. Well, I do have videos on that. My opinions and thoughts on the right and left hand path, you will not hear most people say. And that's kind of what I do. I got a weird long-term memory. Now, when I was a kid, the left-hand path and the right-hand path had distinct philosophies that set them apart. And they were not diametrically opposed. And this is a problem a lot of people have. It is true that the right-hand path was symbolized by the right side up pentagram. The idea, earth, air, fire, water, and spirit, spirit being the top point, bound in a circle, because the circle means some stuff too. It made sense as a symbol, because the right-hand path believed in spirit over the flesh. The left-hand path was the opposite, and they believed in flesh over the spirit. These two philosophies lead them to have different philosophies about very important things. And one of the hallmarks of the right-hand path was service to an external being, and the belief that God, goddess, all that is, the gods, are outside, are out there, up there, out in nature, what have you. Whereas the left-hand path believed that God, if it exists, God, goddess, whatever you have, is inside us, is within us, and hence serving the self. Right-hand path serving an external, left-hand path serving an internal, serving the self. And this is where we get some obscure ideas where the Wiccans believe that you can't, some Wiccans believe that you can't do magic for yourself. Stupid idea. All the way back to Gardnerian craft, this is one symbol for initiation, and the next initiation is this symbol. And they tend to incorporate those philosophies that I laid out. Now, over time, we're taught that the right-hand path and left-hand path diametrically opposed. They don't belong together. The right-hand path are the good guys, left-hand path are the bad guys. Maybe because the Satanists are a left-hand path. And if you ask the Satanists, they will say they are the left-hand path. And a lot of people refer to Satanism as the left-hand path, and in there comes a great amount of confusion because the left-hand path was always part of the craft. Led Zeppelin was great at incorporating great pagan mythos into their songs, like Stairway to Heaven, probably the most pagan song ever written. And you know, there's two paths you can go by, but in the long run, there's always time to change the path you're on. Referring to the right-hand path and left-hand path, these were always part of the same craft. Different philosophies for those paths. But over time, nobody seems to have noticed these paths have become one path. We tend to believe, even the Wiccans believe, that the gods are within us and without us. We have many chants. Be within us, be without us. Be within us, be without us. As without, so within. On and on. These merged a long time ago. They are not opposed. They are not opposite. We tend to have incorporated these two philosophies into our craft, and that was one of the main things that set these paths on opposite sides. Why they were believed to be opposites of each other was based on the philosophies that they held. And plenty of witchcraft, most witchcraft, incorporates the ability to do magic for yourself and serve yourself. Only some forms of Wicca still holding on to that bullshit idea that you can't do magic for yourself, that you should go out and do magic for other people while you're living in a cardboard box on fucking Skid Row, while you're wasting away, starving to death. Yeah. Nah, it ain't that kind of party. So remember this next time somebody, and everybody's going to argue with you if you try and tell people. I get in fights with people all the time because Uncle Birch will say something nobody's ever heard. That's my thing. I remember really old shit that most people forgot about. That's my job. I just repeat some old shit that everybody forgot about that I tend to remember because I absorb some motherfucking witchcraft. That's if I'm a one-trick pony, I got many tricks within that pony, and they're all about witchcraft and magic. So yes, right-hand path, left-hand path. I believe in using both hands. I get a lot more done with both hands, even if I'm masturbating. It just tends to work out better with two hands. There's a time to serve others, there's a time to serve myself. And sometimes when I serve others, I'm getting paid. If I do work for a client, I'm usually getting paid for that work, for that client. Oh yes, I went there. You didn't think I was going to go there, CDC 93? God, you new around here? Of course I went there. That was a great question. Thank you for that question. So anybody, who's next? I'll try, if you already asked a question, let somebody else get in. We got a pretty full house. So maybe going to do 15 more minutes because I got to go. I got some stuff that's almost finished brewing that I've got to package up. Do I believe in contacting souls after they left? Yeah, well, yeah. I'm a Polero, in addition to many other practices. And Palo Mayombe is all about the dead. It's all about ancestors. It's all about bones in your pot. And I can't tell you a whole lot about that, but absolutely we're contacting the dead. We do misas, which is pretty much like medium stuff, almost like a seance. People get possessed by spirits, speak for the spirits to you, that kind of thing. I do believe in contacting them. I do believe they're there. I wonder how long a soul is attached. Because when I was growing up, there was a certain amount of time. There was even a scale of, how many years before your next incarnation. And I think we borrowed that from the Buddhists or the Hindus, but there was a time scale. Each year of your life equated to a certain amount of years being attached as a spirit before you went on to your next incarnation. I don't know where to find that. I would hope that I will be far away, and that I will be a star next time, and won't be being bothered by people invoking me. Yeah. All right, so that was a good question. You have another question? What's there? This time of year tends to still be a good year for contacting the dead, working with the dead. Winter, more people die during the winter. So, asking Uncle Birch, what you got, what you got, what you got? Cold coffee. What do you see for the next year astrologically? I don't really do that. I don't do charts. I believe in sidereal astrology. I do not believe in tropical astrology. Uh, because the people that first calculated tropical astrology failed to incorporate one calculation, the wobble of the Earth's axis. And that tends to throw a lot of things off and more things off over time, and I find sidereal astrology to be more accurate for that. However, I haven't really done astrology for predicting the future. Sometimes I'll get somebody to do a chart for that kind of thing. I'm doing more operational astrology. I'm magically timing my brews, my actions, and my works to adhere to advantageous planetary tides, shall we say. So I don't know. Next year is going to be interesting. I haven't seen so many people wrapped up in politics and affected by politics in most of my life. This entire country's just torn apart by politics, and as such, a lot of the world. And you know, unfortunately, we have a big effect on the world. You know, when our stocks crash, other people's stocks crash. It actually takes for vibration from that planet or that configuration to actually reach my sphere. I'm trying to wrap all the way around here. It's a great question that I probably can't answer well enough right now. Magic's a science. In science, we're trying to track every known variable in our notes, so we can control as many of the variables as possible. The planets that we know of, the stars that we know of, you know, those are known variables, but I recognize there is so much out there in the universe. We're receiving vibrations from stars that went supernova billions of years ago. That's an untrackable variable. We don't know shit about that. There's so much out there we don't know about. There's so many energies coming into this sphere affecting our magic that we cannot track, that we cannot know about. My idea is I'm trying to work with as many of the variables as I can, recognizing that I'm going to have a lot of variables that I can't do anything about, or that I can't recognize, I can't track. So I do try to adhere to as much of the magical timing involving our solar systems, planets, and some closer by stars, and definitely the moon. The moon affects us more. The moon, you know, if I have to do a thing, I'm at least going to try and work in conjunction with the moon if I can't sync up the planets, because the moon affects us very quickly, and its effects on us are very trackable, let's say. Very easy to see what the moon's doing and the different tides and stuff. So thanks again, CDC93. A lot of good questions. All you out there are good questions. I gotta go make this call to one of those famous magical people. Wants me to give him a call right now, so I gotta go do that. Thanks for joining me. I think this was number 6. I will do this at random, different times. If you're not subscribed, I don't know how you even saw this. And thank you, CDC93, for coming. So subscribe to the channel, and you'll get a notification, I believe, when I randomly go on the air and do one of these things. Thank you for helping me get ready. I got some massive teaching to do. Coming February 1st, I got that Year in a Day class started. I've got several other classes going. You can go see about those. You can sign up for them. You can contact me at Witch School. That's WITCHSKEWL @gmail.com. Or you can just go straight to gumroad.com/witch school, which is, of course, WITCHSKEWL. You can see the Year in a Day course there. You can get signed up for it directly from there. At some point this month, I'm going to have to cut off the sign-ups because I've got a lot of people already in this class. I don't know how many the systems can handle. So if you're interested in signing up for that kind of thing or seeing my other works on Gumroad, go check them out. Thank you all for joining me.